Gulf oil lease sales challenged in court over environmental violations, environmental advocacy groups have filed a lawsuit against the federal government, alleging that planned oil and gas lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico violate core environmental protections. The legal challenge centers on claims that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, failed to conduct proper environmental reviews as mandated by the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA. This lawsuit raises critical questions about the balance between energy development and environmental safety, particularly in a region already scarred by past disasters. NEPA violations at the heart of the dispute. The lawsuit, filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, asserts that BOEM bypassed required environmental impact assessments before moving forward with lease sales. NEPA, a cornerstone of U.S. environmental law for over half a century, demands federal agencies thoroughly evaluate the potential environmental and health risks of major projects, including oil and gas exploration. The government's position, as stated by Interior Department spokeswoman Alice Sharp, is that the lease sales were mandated by recent domestic policy legislation and therefore exempt from NEPA's requirements. The agency claims it conducted its own assessment, which it argues satisfies legal obligations. However, the plaintiffs contend this alternative assessment was inadequate, failing to fully account for environmental risks or explore reasonable alternatives. Gulf Coast communities at risk. The lawsuit highlights the vulnerability of Gulf Coast communities, which depend on the region's waters for fishing, tourism, and recreation. Oil and gas operations pose significant threats to these industries and the ecosystems they rely on. The plaintiffs cite the 2010 Deepwater Horizon explosion, which resulted in the worst offshore oil spill in American history, as a stark reminder of the potential consequences. The Deepwater Horizon disaster caused widespread ecological damage, economic losses, and public health concerns. The lawsuit argues that similar risks remain inherent in continued oil and gas development in the Gulf. The agency's disregard for NEPA's requirements, according to the plaintiffs, increases the likelihood of future environmental harm. Legal and political context. The legal challenge comes amid ongoing debates over energy policy and environmental regulation. The Trump administration prioritized deregulation, often at the expense of environmental safeguards. The lawsuit seeks to restore those safeguards and ensure that federal agencies comply with established environmental laws. The outcome of the case could set a precedent for future oil and gas development in the Gulf and elsewhere. If the court rules in favor of the environmental groups, it could force the government to conduct more thorough environmental reviews and potentially delay or halt future lease sales. The case underscores the tension between economic interests and environmental protection. The Gulf Coast region is a critical energy hub, but it is also home to sensitive ecosystems and vulnerable communities. Balancing these competing priorities remains a major challenge for policymakers and regulators. The lawsuit's central argument rests on the principle that environmental reviews are not merely procedural requirements, but essential safeguards against preventable disasters. By challenging the government's decision to bypass NEPA, the plaintiffs aim to ensure that future energy development in the Gulf is conducted responsibly and sustainably. The outcome of this case will have far-reaching implications for both the energy industry and the environmental movement. It will test the limits of deregulation and the effectiveness of environmental laws in protecting vulnerable ecosystems and communities. The legal battle over Gulf oil lease sales is a microcosm of the broader struggle between economic growth and environmental sustainability. The plaintiffs argue that short-term economic gains should not come at the expense of long-term environmental harm. The court's decision will determine whether that principle prevails. The lawsuit underscores the importance of rigorous environmental oversight in the energy sector. By challenging the government's decision to bypass NEPA, the plaintiffs seek to ensure that future energy development in the Gulf is conducted responsibly and sustainably. The case will test the limits of deregulation and the effectiveness of environmental laws in protecting vulnerable ecosystems and communities.